As global tensions rise and trade relationships evolve, Canada is rethinking its economic playbook with a sharper focus on sovereignty, security, and long term resilience. Long seen as deeply integrated with the United States, Canada is now facing mounting pressure to diversify its partnerships, strengthen domestic capacity, and secure its position in an increasingly fragmented global economy. From defense spending and industrial policy to critical minerals and supply chains, this shift carries significant implications, not just for policymakers, but for investors trying to understand where the next opportunities and risks may emerge. To help us break down what this could mean for Canadian markets and key sectors, we're now joined by Brendan Caldwell, Director at Caldwell Securities Limited. Brendan, thank you so much for the time today.
Theresa, always great to be here with you.
Now, are we starting to see a real shift in how Canada thinks about economic sovereignty, particularly in areas where it has long depended on the United States?
Yes, and maybe.
Mhm.
Yes, in that I think individuals, both people and individual corporations, are making a shift. It is as little as not buying U.S. wine or U.S. Other products made in the U.S. to uh, corporations looking for other sources of revenue. The thing about America relative to every other country in the world is it's so darn close. I mean, 90% of the population lives within 100 miles of the border, or order of magnitude, that's correct. So it's just to ship goods and services and everything to the US is just so much easier. And it's not as though the rest of the world is tariff free. It's not as though we can just ship all our goods free to, I don't know, the European Union, for example. You did a segment on China. It's not as though we can ship our goods to China, not that they necessarily need any of our finished products. So it's a bit challenging. From a government perspective, I think there's a lot of talk about diversifying, but I don't know in reality how much of that's translating into making it easier for us to be more independent, more sovereign. If the government could do one thing, I mean, if you want to be maître chez nous, to borrow from the Quebec separatist mantra from the 60s, if you want to be a masters in our own house, we need to balance our budget. You have a lot more financial independence if you don't owe anybody any money. It's very hard to go bankrupt if you don't owe anybody. So the issue, I think, Carney talks about financial independence or economic independence from the United States. But unless we stop borrowing at record levels, not just the national level, but at the provincial level too, we won't. You can't be your own. You can't be in charge of your own sovereignty if you owe the world hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, and if Canada becomes more serious about diversifying away from the US, which sectors are best positioned to benefit? And what will matter more to investors, policy ambition or Canada's ability to execute at scale?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Theresa. So what I hear you saying is what matters more to investors, the government talking a good game or actually our ability to do something about it as a country and or as Canadian companies? Well, let me think about that one. So yeah, the government talks a good game, from Ontario talking about developing the Ring of Fire. If I see one more Government of Ontario ad about all the economic development, the trouble is the way government approaches it, it's government programs and picking winners. By the way, they were going to pour billions of dollars into electric battery plants. And I don't know how much of that money got spent. I hope not very much, because that's now already gone. The idea that government can pick winners is ridiculous. They can't. They don't know how. It's capital markets can't always pick winners either, but they're evaluating risk differently. It's not based on policy as much as it is based on an educated risk of one's own money. So, with that whole speech having been said, I think the answer to your question is the sectors that are best suited are ones where we have a unique ability and ones where we have unique products. Now, unfortunately, some of those unique products are commodities, and we've got to get them out of the ground in one form or another. So how do we do that in an economically viable and timely fashion while they're still important? Whether it's molybdenum or some other rare earth, I don't know, unobtainium, we've got to be able to get them out of the ground before they become obsolete. So that, and also where you have finished products. And for that, we do need good management. It's been the tech story in Canada to be able to get leading technology companies to a certain point, from New Mitel and Newbridge networks through Nortel networks through BlackBerry. We've been able to get them to a certain point, but never to break through to that world dominating position. So I do think we have to think differently about how governments and companies work together. I think the emphasis needs to be on allowing companies to operate, whether they're in natural resources or technology, to the highest potential.
Now, the government says its new defense industrial strategy could unlock $180 billion in procurement opportunities and $290 billion in defense related capital investment over the next decade. How much of that is likely to translate into real earnings for Canadian companies?
Well, it just depends whether they can unlock the procurement process to get the keys. That should be a 5 to 7 year procurement thing just to get the keys to do the unlocking. When it comes to defense, it's been my literally whole adult life, from replacing the Sea King helicopters in the that were Korean War vintage through the F-35. The F-35, we've been talking about that for north of 20 years, and yet, one of the great test pilots was Canadian for that, and yet we have no F-35s. So we do take an awfully long time to procure anything. Part of the challenge is regional interests. There was a whole kerfuffle which involved the firing and failed court case against Mark Norman, Vice Admiral Mark Norman, uh, because of all of the political skullduggery about who's going to get the contract, whether it's going to be the East Coast or Quebec. It's not as though anybody's going to deliver a defense contract to Saskatchewan and Alberta anytime soon. They don't vote the right way. So I do think it is possible, but we have to put technological and military requirements ahead of political interests. Because first things first, we need to have a good military and technological solution before it's going to be right for the regions. Otherwise, it just becomes one a case of picking winners, in this case, regional winners.
Now, Brendan, we have about a minute left, but if the global economy becomes more fragmented, how valuable does Canada's role as a supplier of strategic minerals actually become?
Oh, it's so important. I mean, we have a lot of everything. It's just a question of whether we can come to an agreement to get at it, and whether that's a blanket agreement that the local Aboriginal communities and the provinces can agree to. That we have a national policy that actually that the entire nation buys into. I think that we really need to find a way, a system, because it doesn't even matter what the rules are or who gets how much, as long as the rules are known and the process is actually doable. So I think it's incredibly important to, from our energy resources, be that oil and gas or uranium, to rare earths, to be able to actually get it out of the ground and get it to the world markets on a timely basis. And we're going to have to cooperate to make that happen.
Well, Brendan, thank you for the time and happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you too.